Hey, True Believers, Englentine here with another Comic Book Origins. This time around, we are talking about the female Furies created by Jack Kirby as part of his fourth world for DC Comics. Now, the female Furies are a group of female warriors. They were trained by Granny Goodness to serve Darkseid as a strike force, and they are loyal to him, and that's going to be brought up later. And their biggest adversary is their former leader and co-trainer, as a matter of fact, Big Barda, who defected to Earth with her husband scot-free, Mr. Miracle. There was a kill order put on them. We're going to find that out in this comic book, as a matter of fact, and they've been after him ever since. They did appear in Smallville. There have been numerous cartoon appearances ever, but if you're ever looking for any publication history, that's really hard to find. What I kept getting pointed to is Cecil Castellucci's 6-issue miniseries, if you want to know something about them. Wouldn't that be horrible? Oh my goodness gracious. Anyway, there you go. We're going to be diving into Mr. Miracle number 6, the first appearance of Female Furies. But before that, once again, I would like to point out that this is a commissioned video. Somebody said, hey, you know what you should look into? The Female Furies. And if you would like this to be done, go on over to Ko-Fi. And there you could commission a video for any of the categories that we run here. Bad Comic Beatdown, really that bad. And you could pick out whatever character, storyline you would like. We got comic book origin videos is what I'm doing right here. Comic books were better are my top 10 lists where I say, well, okay, this is why this era or these artists or whatever was better at the time. I do minority characters as well. I love to spotlight them. And of course, Really That Good, where you can pick out a storyline. Really appreciate everybody who has already done that, and I look forward to whatever you could come up with. Now, without further ado, let's jump into Mr. Miracle number 6. As always, we start off looking at the cover. It's a poster cover. You know, get rid of the words, and it's absolutely awesome. Jack Kirby outdid himself as we have some sort of contraption that's got Mr. Miracle trapped, and he's got to escape from. You see Oberon climbing up a cliff. Super escape artist. Now, we are not going to be looking at the Boy Commando story versus Agent X that's an extra in this particular feature. However, we also, thanks to the words on the cover, discover that this is a 2-for-1 first appearance. It's a 2-for-1 comic book origin, as the funky Flashman also makes his debut in Mr. Miracle number 6. Okay, so only the female Furies were commissioned, so I'm really not going to spend a lot of time talking about the Funky Flashman. One of the stories behind him, though, is that he was based on Stan Lee after Jack Kirby and Stan Lee had their little fallout. Now, I don't know if that is true. However, the first page of his introduction does read, in the shadow world between success and failure, there lives the driven little men who dream of having it all, the opportunistic spoiler without character or value, who preys on all things like a cannibal, including you. Like death and taxes, we all must deal with him. Sometimes that's why, in this issue, we go where he lives, in the decaying antebellum grandeur of the Mockingbird Estates, and wait for Godot with the funky Flashman. Ouch. If that is about Stan Lee, just Trey ouch, Jack. That introduction, and by the dialogue the two men are speaking to each other, we find out that the Funky Flashman, who is actually called Funky, is living on the allowance from somebody else through a cache of cash that has been left somewhere in this house, and he's doled out an allowance. And we see where the Funky Flashman picks up his cash. There's a statue that gives him a morning allowance. And, of course, he's complaining that it's not enough, but his manservant here named House Roy is talking about, oh, no, with your influences, you could make that into tons of money, and once you sign over the house to me, everything will be hunky-dory. And we really do find that House Roy is a bit of a troll as far as manservants go. And, of course, nothing really kind of illustrates the feud between Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. If this is the case, then this page right here, where they're talking about how he signed Mr. Miracle up and he's an asset, and if he ends up getting injured, he'll just find somebody else. That really all that matters is the image and the cell and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. I guess you can make your own decision on whether or not Jack Kirby made the Funky Flashman out to be his own little avatar for Stan Lee. So we catch up to Mr. Miracle, and he is securely strapped to a rocket sled that has the words NASA Proving Ground on it, while Oberon's yelling, "You'll never make it, Scott! It's like being fired out of a bazooka!" But Oberon sets the timer anyway and then runs for safety. Oberon has no time to think or hesitate. He races for the shelter of a small dugout bunker. Then, ignition! Flame roar! A comet unleashed on a narrow track. Scott, how on earth are you going to do it? You have less than a half a second before you go over the cliff. That's some cool sound effects right there. That is the production value, people. Like a fiery meteor, the rocket sled shoots over the cliff, but not before a short burst erupts skyward from its flaming trail. However, Oberon's concern for Scott has caused him to overlook it. Oh my God, he's gone over and blown up with that sled. I told him he didn't have a chance. Even if he got loose in time, he couldn't jump free of that speeding torch without being burned alive. Hey, you're running in the wrong way. And we see that Mr. Miracle is apologizing that he didn't tell Oberon about the ejector seat, and he says, wow, if your reaction was like that, think about the crowds. And Oberon's like, the crowds? And he says, oh yeah, you've been hinting about wanting to go on tour. And he says, touring means constantly being on the move, and that's what's important. We have to become mobile. And then we cut to Big Barda, who's holding a gun, saying, Earth weapons, primitive on Apocalypse, but effective here. Easy to handle, too. And we see the funky Flashmans with her going, make love, not war, chickie. You're packing more ammo than you could put in that gun. I would hope the real Stan Lee would have better lines than that one. Just saying. So Barda's having none of his advances and says, wait a second, did you get here through a boom tube? And then realizes, no, this guy is in no way, shape, or form an actual new god. He's a pale imitation. And she breaks the gun, and he's like, uh-oh. And she's like, yeah, that was real metal. Imagine what I could do to your bone and pulp hand. And she blows him off, walks away. Scott-free comes in, and they make their introductions. He offers a cup of coffee that Oberon goes to get. That's basically everything on this page. And carrying on the fact that this may be Jack Kirby's dig at Stan Lee, he is just a wordsmith, and he's going on complimenting, but not really saying anything of substance. And every time Scott-free does try to start a real conversation, he just continues on and on as if Scott's not even talking. Cut to Big Barda in the bath, and she's just really appreciating the fact that she could take a bath by herself, because if this was on Apocalypse, she'd be sharing it with about a dozen female Furies because they don't really pay attention to individual needs, when all of a sudden her side clip goes off and warns her that something a lot more dangerous than the funky Flashman has entered her area. Then we catch Barda as she's sitting tensely waiting. Deserters from Apocalypse are never safe. Apocalypse reclaims its own, and the arms of the ruling dark side is long. So far as hunters have been kept at bay, Granny Goodness, Vermin Wunderbar, I wonder who's crawling out of the woodwork now. Hee-ah-hee-hee! Almost got you that time, Barda, but I'll do better. Ha-ha-ha! Mad Harriet! The two fight as Barda uses a desk as a shield. Don't blame me, Barda. Our whole battle unit's been assigned to kill you and scot-free. I'll take your power spikes out of shape and get the others, too. We'll see who gets who, traitor. Stompa! And we see a foot kicking her in the side. She can smash me into the floor. Whomp! Barda grabs Stompa by the foot and swings her into the desk. And as suddenly as they arrive, they're gone. They're gone, phased out. This is only the opening gun. Barda, what's happened? If you've finished with that phony, funky Flashman, we've got more trouble. New visitors from Apocalypse. Well, the hunting dogs never stop coming. Who's on our trail now? How did they get in here? It's my own battle unit this time, and a stranger pack of murderous misfits you've never seen. They're experts, too, each trained to kill with a special skill. Their clothes are webbed with phasing circuits, which put their molecules in transit. At the wink of an eye, they can vanish and appear at will. Well, that's just peachy. Don't let it get you down, Scott. I can handle them. I just threw Mad Harriet and Stompa. There are only two others to take care of. Two other killers. We're going to move. And keep moving. I made a deal with the Flashman to manage our tour. He's a transparent second-rater, but it'll have to do. Earth isn't small. Perhaps we can lose ourselves in hamlets, cities, continents. Perhaps in time the forces of Apocalypse will give up the hunt. It's a delusion, Scott, but I'll buy it. Only watch. Flashman's megalomaniacs love to make noise. He could be our Achilles heel. The next day, the funky Flashman walks in on Mr. Miracle as he's about to rehearse another escape. One machine moves him towards a buzzing saw, and he only has seconds to escape before it cuts him in pieces. And then another that we see where Mr. Miracle climbs into a big bowl only to have a bomb dropped on it. These wow the funky Flashman, and he asks about some of the secrets. So Scott opens up, says, well, it's a good performer in a good position. He says, well, what else do you employ? And he says, well, there's the mother box. She helps, but she doesn't do it all. And this, of course, gets the Flashman very, very interested in the mother box. We see a woman standing in the corner, and she knocks over a lamp while the two are talking. So this is a mother box, hey? I know what they are. It's just I have never seen one this close before. Wait, what's that? They ask when the lamp falls. The prey is alert, now to select the lash that will cut them to ribbons. How did that lamp fall? There's no one here but us scintillating personalities. Strange. Suddenly, Mr. Miracle looks up in time to witness a silent struggle as Barda grabs Lashina from behind. The two women fight, Barda trying to find an opening where she can move inside the swings of the lash from Lashina. And finally she does. Falling on top of her, we hear Lashina cry out, "My arm!" And then suddenly vanished. She phased out. I have to admit, I did not read Kirby's Mr. Miracle in a long time. So I just forgot how much of a bodyguard Big Barda is in this particular issue. Seriously, I'm like, okay, I got to go over all the other Mr. Miracle books. He just hangs around and escapes, and then Big Barda shows up to do all his fighting for him. Go figure. To be fair, though, even Mr. Miracle himself calls himself out on this one, and he says, I hustled Flashman out as quickly as possible. Are you all right? And she just says, I'm a little bit hurt. And he says, this has got to stop. I won't stand for others being harmed on my account. It's time I stopped running. It's time I stood my ground. Bart is like, no, don't be a fool. Lashina isn't the worst of the lot. There's still Bernadette, sister of Desaad. But they seem to know where y'all are at all times. How do they do that? Good question, Oberon. The answer is their phasing circuitry. They track the signals for Mother Box. Scott has one. Wrong. Funky Flashman has it. I got rid of him so fast he didn't have time to return it to me. Oberon laughs. At that moment, the last scion of the departed Mockingbird slave-owning empire ponders the wonders of the Mother Box. If it isn't a musical sardine can, what the hell is it? I pass, sir, says... Oh, I forgot this guy's name. Anyway, moving on. Not being able to make heads or tails of Mother Box, he tosses it aside as his little houseboy says it's time for you to listen to your own voice. Of course, he wants to do that instead, but then there's a ree coming from Mother Box. What's that? That can't be me, you dolt. 4 molecular beams lance into Mother Box, and in their bright discharge, 4 bizarre figures appear. As we see the female Furies. Ladies and gentlemen, the first appearance of the female Furies. Another dig at Stan Lee through the use of the funky Flashman has him so enamored with his own voice that he doesn't notice the world around him and doesn't even realize that the female Furies have entered the room for a while. And when he does, they decide, okay, you know what? That kill order goes for all of his friends too. And we see Desaad's sister fire a dart at him. That's when the funky Flashman grabs his flunky and throws him towards the female Furies, thinking, okay, I'll send my guy into battle. And, of course, funky Flashman decides to save himself. Poor Houseroy. I'm afraid he's getting the worst of it. I hope I can summon help in time. And the house blows up. This is a great panel, by the way. Say what you will. Even if you don't like Jack Kirby's art, you gotta love the way he just does a panel. It's amazing. Cosmic catastrophes. Those nuts have dynamited the house, and the Houseroy's in there. Oh, good Lord. And he stops to watch as his beard and hair falls off. There it goes. Everything's up in flame. The Mockingbird estates and its happy memories, mint juleps, cotillions, happy slaves singing for the family. Looks kind of pretty, though. Passion red flame against an undulating cyclopean black smoke. A marvel of contrast. All right. Okay, Jack. Enough's enough. Whistling with rising new spirits like all his endless kind, funky Flashman strides with new hopes, new schemes into the night. Oh, well, gotta cut away from scot-free, love the lad, but hate his friends. On to new conquest, Funky Flashman, you winner, you. Usually, I comment on a page that I already read. This time, I'm going to comment on a page I'm about to because, oh my gosh, a whole bunch of story happens off panel. Seriously, this area right here is when there's about 4 more pages worth of story, it looks like. At least 2. Seriously, I cannot even believe this happened. Come on, Jack, you're better than this. DC Comics, you're better than this, or you used to be. See, right there in the top corner, Bart is saying, some battle, we saved the butler, but lost the house. House Roy's not dead. They had a battle with the female Furies. You know that because the next thing, you have Mr. Miracle. I was about to call him Mr. Free. Mr. Miracle, the gals were furious when we stepped in. They used mini bombs when they phased out again. Well, that's 2 panels, 3 panels worth of stuff in one. We got here in time to see Flashman throw his man to the she-wolves. Yes, I know, he'd have done the same to me or anybody else, but that's not the point. Our battle is with the forces of apocalypse and with ourselves. We had the courage to break free of them. Do we dare to return and face them down? If we dare, we die. Well, I'm a soldier, Scott. I'm trained to die, but you're beautiful inside. They never got to you, and now they'll do things to you. Enough, Barta. There is no freedom in running. I'm going back and win it their way in trial by combat. What kind of world is it that spawns gods of evil and lesser beings with horribly hostile hang-ups? You've seen some of its nasty products. Now come along with Scott-Free and Big Barta and take a fearful glimpse of the apocalypse trap. And there you go, gang. The first appearance of the female Furies and the Funky Flashman. It's a 2-for-1, seriously. And I got to tell you, I really did dig it. This is a good book. It's very well, it's not, I don't know if it's very well written. It's well written, and it's very well drawn. And I love Jack Kirby's paneling, as I said before. A few minor issues, a little bit of silliness. Definitely digs at Stan Lee, but you could even kind of laugh at that. I mean, you know, they work together. If anybody deserves a dig, I guess it would be Jack Kirby, right? Once again, this was a commissioned video. Now, you could go to Ko-Fi and you could commission a video in any category that is offered, and you can even do teams, villains, heroes, whatever list, objects, if you want to know the origin story or the first appearance of the Batmobile. Hey, I could do that as well. And if the origin isn't in the first appearance, you could do an add-on, and that's what happened here to do the origin of the female Furies. Well, little problem. There was no real definitive origin that I found. I was looking through the Mr. Miracle, the Fourth World books, just trying to find the definitive origin of the female Furies. And a lot of times you will get, yes, well, Granny Goodness trained us to be Apocalypse's warriors and so forth and so on. And they always say that kind of thing, but never a definitive, this is the beginning of them, and this is where they came from, and this is the kind of thing that we do until 2019. Jim, did you do it on purpose? I thank you very much for the commission, but oh my gosh, was this your master plan? To see someone go insane because they have to read and really delve into every issue of the Female Furies written by Cecil Castellucci? Was it your plan to watch someone go mad on camera while they do it? You diabolical son of a... this cannot be done in one video, gang. It has to have its own really that bad. So keep an eye out. It's coming soon. Thank you very much to Jim Sorensen for commissioning this particular video. If you like it, please click like and share. YouTube's no longer sharing these videos, so I rely on you guys to help me out here. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done it already. Hit that notification bell and make sure your notifications are on, because that's all YouTube cares about when they care. And if you don't mind, go on over to Patreon or to Ko-Fi to help out and drop $1 in the till and even commission your own video. These are a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to dive in and really tear a new one into that freaking series. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who has already commissioned a video, and to everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.